This is a longer video, but if you want to learn how to create timecode tracks to control individual segments of a scripted song synchronized to music with the ease and simplicity of timecode, I hope you keep watching. We'll start one song and it starts at 0. We can jump to song 2 and it'll jump right to the 5-minute mark and play the script. By just selecting the audio file for song 3, it'll jump to the 10-minute mark and start the final song.
In video 435, the big game, we showed how to organize multiple scripts in soundtracks and control those with an Android device and the FTEK control application. In video 440, creating timecode files and controlling the show with an MP3 player, we walked through a number of ways in which you can create a track with timecode that will feed timecode to the fireTEK system. And finally, in that video, we showed that with a simple MP3 player, you could control the script and provide synchronized music. The goal of this video is to show how we can combine multiple scripts into a single script and then control segments of that script by separate timecode files synchronized with each song. And we'll use our hypothetical big game that we used in video 435 for this. We're going to combine script 1, 2, and 3 into one large script for the whole event. And then we'll create 3 separate audio files with included timecode and show how you can control each segment of that script by simply selecting and playing each audio file. Okay, we have Audacity running, and I've saved this project as 740, the big game by timecode. And what I have here is I have the folder open for video 435 with our hypothetical big game scenario. And here we have song 1, dubstep, song 2, going higher, and song 3, punky. And we're going to load all 3 of these into Audacity. Now what we want to do is create one track where these songs start at different time increments. We're going to leave song 1 here, dubstep, at time 0. We're going to move song 2 to start at the 5-minute mark and song 3 to start at the 10-minute mark. Now, I'm not an expert in Audacity, so there may be a number of ways of doing this, but I'm going to show you what I know, and it works. So we're going to select song 2 here by double-clicking it, and it'll highlight in white. And we're then going to take this drag tool here, and we're going to move it so that this here, which is shown down here, the start time, slides out to 5 minutes. Now we'll have to zoom out to do this here, but here's 5 minutes out here. So we're going to slide this out here, and we can see we're slightly over. So what we can do is zoom in some more, where we can adjust this right up to 5 minutes exactly. So there we see right down here, start time is at 5 minutes, 0 seconds, 0 milliseconds. Now we're going to do the same thing with song 3. We're going to use our select tool here and double click on song 3, and it'll highlight in white background. Then take our drag tool, and we're going to drag this out to around 10 minutes. Now the 5 minutes and the 10 minutes, that's arbitrary, but those just make it nice, distinct numbers that we can remember for each song. Now I'm going to zoom in here so we can get this lined up right with 10 minutes. And you can zoom in quite a ways here in Audacity. So there we go. We're at 10 minutes, 0 seconds, 0 milliseconds. We'll zoom back out, and this is what we have. So we've got these 3 songs separated by 5-minute increments. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide these up so they're on the same track. I'm going to select song 2 and slide that up as well, and then we can go ahead and delete these 2 lower tracks here. Now I'm going to do a real quick compression of these audio files to prevent the clipping that's going on. And you can do some other searches on YouTube on how to do this. So now we have our 3 songs segmented out by 5 minutes. Okay, now we're going to do a check here. So we're just going to double click on each one of these song segments and make sure that we're at the right start time. This one's at 10 minutes, 0 seconds. This one's at 5 minutes, 0 seconds. Now what we're going to do is load in our timecode file. Now we went through in video 440 how to create timecode on the right channel and condense our audio on the left channel. So I'm not going to go through the details on creating the timecode track right here. You can go and watch the video 440, and I'll provide a link in the description. To briefly explain what timecode is doing, the timecode here is simply a counter that's provided by an audio file. It sounds much like a fax machine. And essentially it's giving the electronics, in this case the fireTEK system, the time associated with the script that it's going to fire. So for example, when that timecode audio gets to 5 minutes, the fireTEK system knows that it should be firing whatever is at 5 minutes on the script. And when it gets to 10 minutes, the fireTEK system knows that it should be firing whatever is on the script at 10 minutes. The other thing timecode allows you to do is you don't have to start at 0. We could tell the timecode to start at 9 minutes and 55 seconds, giving us a 5-second lead in to the 10-minute mark. But we'll come back to timecode in a moment. What we're going to do now is go ahead and just delete the timecode track. We're going to take this audio track of the 3 songs separated by 5 minutes, and we're going to export this out into a single audio file. And in this case, we'll go ahead and use a WAV file. It could be a WAV or MP3. And we're going to export this and title it The Big Game Song All. And we'll give it that same title. Now that we've exported this, we're going to transition over to PyroIgnitionControl. In PyroIgnitionControl here, if we were to load that audio file, The Big Game Song All, we see something starting right at the beginning or at 0, something starting right around 5 minutes, and at 10 minutes. And these are our 3 songs. And there's nothing in between these songs. If we were starting from scratch, I would suggest creating this large audio file first and then designing your show to this combined audio file. However, in our case, we already have 3 scripts that we designed in video 435, The Big Game, for each one of these songs. So I'm going to show how we can modify our CSV files to combine those into one CSV file that then we can backload into PyroIgnitionControl to check. Okay, what we have here are all 3 scripts, script 1, script 2, and script 3 from The Big Game loaded up in OpenOffice. Now you could probably use any spreadsheet application. I happen to use OpenOffice because it's free. Now I've sorted these scripts by time, so they're in chronological order for each one of these scripts. And currently you can see that we have an event that starts at 1 second. Now this time here represents milliseconds, so this is 1 second, 0 milliseconds. This here is 4 seconds, 820 milliseconds. And you can go to video 301, fireTEK PyroScript format, and FTEK to get a rundown of how the fireTEK script format is set up. We want script 1 to still start at 0. And in this case, the first events fire at 1 second. So we're not going to modify this one here, but we are going to rename it. And we're going to rename it, rather than script 1, all, and I'm going to put for timecode here. Now script 2 here, this one starts at 5 minutes. So what we want to do is adjust this time by 5 minutes. We want to add 5 minutes to it. So 5 minutes times 60 seconds per minute is 300 seconds. So we want to take this time here and add 300 to it. But this is in milliseconds, so it's actually 300,000. So you see here we're at 301 seconds and 0 milliseconds. So now that I've got that function created in the spreadsheet here, I'm going to copy that all the way down. And just to check here, this last event happened at 33 seconds and 57 milliseconds. It now happens at 333 seconds and 57 milliseconds, or 5 minutes have been added to it. So now that we've done that, we're going to take these cells here, we're going to copy these, and we're going to paste special them here. And so those times have migrated over. Now we can go ahead and delete this column here. This is jumped to 600 because we had this function in here that was taking this column here and adding 300,000 milliseconds to it. So we'll just go ahead and delete that. So now we have adjusted script 2 to start at 5 minutes. Now we're going to do the same thing here with script 3, but in this case it's at 10 minutes. So 10 minutes times 60 is 600 additional seconds. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add a function here that says cell D2 here plus 600, but we're milliseconds, so 600,000 is our new start time. So this has bumped this time out by 10 minutes. And we'll go ahead and copy this down. So we can double check here at the end. This had an event that finished at 25 seconds and 86 milliseconds. It's now at 625 seconds, so that's 10 minutes out and 86 milliseconds. So go ahead and take these cells here, and now again we'll do the paste special. The reason that we're doing paste special is we want to make sure it doesn't copy the format over. And those have moved over, and then we can go ahead and delete that column that we had the function in. Okay, so now we have script 1 at 0, script 2 at 5 minutes, and script 3 at 10 minutes. Now we want to combine these all into one script. So I am going to copy all of these. Now I'm not picking the column headers here, but I am starting with the data files. I'm going to copy all of these, and I'm going to place them here at the bottom of our combined script, this all for TC. And so we can see that the first script ends at 31 seconds, and then the next event here happens at 301 seconds, or at 5 minutes. Now we're going to do the same thing with script 3. We're going to copy this, and we're going to paste this at the end. So now we have one script that has all of the events loaded into it, and the last event happens at 620 seconds and 25 milliseconds. So we'll save this here. We'll go ahead and close these. And now we're going to go back to PyroIgnitionControl. Now video 302 walked through how to load a CSV file into PyroIgnitionControl. So I'm not going to go through a lot of the details here, but I'll provide a link to video 302. But to check the combined CSV file that we just created, we're going to backload that into PyroIgnitionControl so we can check it against the waveform that we have here for the music. So we're going to import fireTEK file format. Now you can go through the details of this are in video 302. I'm giving PyroIgnitionControl a project file name right now. And now I'm going to load that project that we just created. Now we adjusted the script in the CSV file manually with a spreadsheet application. There is also a way where you can offset the individual scripts within PyroIgnitionControl as you load the projects back in. For those that have used that process before, you're probably thinking this video is a bit long, but I want to make sure everybody understands what's going on in the background when we're combining these scripts. So I'll do a follow-up video as well showing a couple of shortcuts you can take with offsetting the time when you load the project back into PyroIgnitionControl. So for now, we're going to just leave this set time here at 0. So now we can see it's loaded all of the events here. Now backloading into PyroIgnitionControl from a CSV file like this doesn't give us the duration of each of the events, but it does give us the ignition or start time. So if we were to zoom in to these, we can see that we've got events spread out across the audio file and nothing until we get to the 5-minute mark. We have our events laid out over song 2. Then if we go all the way out to the 10-minute mark, we have our events laid out over song 3. So it looks like everything loaded up properly. Now again, I would recommend creating your combined audio track up front and then designing your show to that audio track, at least in PyroIgnitionControl here. We use this approach here just to check that our modification of the CSV files in a spreadsheet application was done correctly, and it has. We can also then use PyroIgnitionControl if we wanted to load the script into the modules. What we're going to do is just take the CSV file we created and load it with the FTEK control application. Okay, now we're back to Audacity. We're going to go through quickly here the same steps that we did in video 440. We're going to mix this stereo track down to a mono, and then we're going to move the audio here over to the left channel. So we've panned it all the way over to the left. And now we're going to add our timecode track here. And we're going to pan this all the way over to the right. And we are going to cut it sometime after our 10-minute track. Okay, now what we can do is we're going to select both of these tracks, and we are going to mix and render to a new track. And so this has created a single track here with the songs on the left channel and the timecode on the right channel. And we can go ahead and delete these two files here that we had before. And now what we want to do is create two new tracks. So we're just going to add new stereo track and do that twice. And now what we want to do is to zoom into each one of these songs and cut them and create separate tracks. So we're going to start here with song 3, and I'm going to try to get my cursor here as close to the 10-second mark as possible. It doesn't have to be exact, but I can see here the position right now that I was at 9 minutes and 59.996 seconds. And that's pretty close. And I'm going to go ahead and cut the track right there. Now, when I've cut this track here, I've cut both the left and the right channels. Then I'm going to come to some point after this. The accuracy of the cut after the song I'm not so worried about, and I'm going to cut that. We'll zoom back out. I'm going to select this section that I cut, and with the time shift tool, I am going to drag that down and to the beginning of this third track. And to make sure it starts right at 0, with that segment of the song selected, you can go Track, Align Tracks, Start to 0. Now we're going to do the same thing here with the second song. I'm going to get as close as I can to 5 minutes and cut that. And then sometime after that, song segment and cut it. I'm going to select that segment there, and I'm going to drag that down to the second track, select it again, and align it to start to 0. If I zoom back out and view over to the beginning here at 0, I've got song 1, song 2, and song 3 lined up all to start at the beginning of each track. Now I'm going to go ahead and just delete all this. And what we should have done as we created these is to label them. Alright, so I've changed this name here to Big Game Song 1 Dubstep Timecode Right Channel 0 minutes. And this one here is going to be Big Game Song 2 Going Higher Timecode Right 5 minutes. And this one, Big Game Song 3 Punky Timecode Right 10 minutes. Now, even though these all start at 0 here, we have to remember that when this song plays and it has this time code, it's only going to fire the events that are associated with the time included in this portion of the timecode track. So what we're going to do now is export 3 individual files. So I'm going to mute these 2 and just select this one and do File Export. We can do an MP3 or a WAV file. We'll just do a WAV file here. And I'm going to name this Big Game Song 1 Dubstep Timecode Right 0 minutes. And what we can see is that has created one file. It's about 41 seconds long. And if we were to play that, we'd hear the time code going, and then if you listen closely, you can hear the music start in the background. All right. Now, we are going to select song 2, and we're going to do the same thing. Export. Going higher. Time code right. 5 minutes. And we're going to select the third song and export that as well. Okay, so now we've got a folder here, Big Game Timecode, where we've organized our script that has everything combined, so one script, and that's what we loaded into PyroIgnitionControl. That's this script here. We have our 3 songs with timecode on the right channel at 0 minutes, 5 minutes, and 10 minutes. Okay, I'm going to pause here because you may recall in video 440 I showed there's other ways that you can take a soundtrack and merge the left and right down to mono and add a SMPTE timecode. In the application we used at Video 440 was this SMPTE wave generator. And we merged the stereo channels to mono and added SMPTE on the right channel, which is the convention that I use. But it has this option here to add offset. So if we wanted to, we could take the soundtrack that we had, and let's say that we're going to use this song here, Punky, song 3. We would then add an offset, and this offset is hours, minutes, and seconds. So we would change this to 10 minutes. Now what that does is when it adds the time code to the left track, that time code audio is going to start at 10 minutes rather than at 0. So we'll open our WAV file, and we're going to pick song 3, Punky, and that's the same one as this here. And we're going to open that. And it has created that file here. And just for a demonstration, I'm going to add that here to Audacity. And we'll see that it lines up with this sound file here. The only difference is that I trimmed the end of this track a little bit longer, and this one trimmed at the end of the audio file. And this time code here should start at 10 minutes. So this is a simpler way that you can add an offset time code to your soundtrack, but I want to make sure that we understand how this actually works in Audacity first, and how you would need to create an offset audio track if you were to design this in PyroIgnitionControl or another software off of a single audio file. Okay, I'm going to load this single script into the modules, and then I will load these 3 audio files with the timecode on the right channel into an audio player. In this case, I'm going to use my Kindle Fire Android device as an audio player. I won't be using the FTEK Control app to control this. It'll just be an audio player. So I'll go set up the other camera on the modules so we can go through this demonstration.
Okay, we've got Module 1, Module 2, Module 3, and Module 4 here. They are currently set up such that this module here is the master, and these are slaves. They're in test right now. They have the new script loaded into them that has the total script for all 3 songs. We have this Android device, which is a Kindle Fire, that has 3 song files on it. It's got song 1, dubstep, timecode right, 0 minutes. Song 2, going higher, timecode right, 5 minutes. And song 3, punky, timecode right, 10 minutes. So right, or red channel here, is timecode that's plugged in to the master module. The audio, or the song, that we put on the left channel is plugged into this speaker here. They're currently in test, so we can do a sound check. And there's our sound check. Music on the left channel only is playing. It's actually feeding timecode to the module, which you can see here, LTC. But because it's in test right now, and it's not armed, it's not firing anything. One thing we'll show here is that we chose song 1. If we were to go back and pick song 2, which starts at 5 minutes, when this module receives the time code starting at 5 minutes, you'll see the time here advance to 5 minutes. See, it jumped right to 5 minutes. Now with timecode, you could actually advance this. So if I move this forward, it moved to 5 minutes and 27 seconds. If I take it back to the beginning, it goes back to 5 minutes. That's the benefit of timecode, is that you can jump anywhere in the script with the timecode file. We'll pause it. It's paused here. Okay. We're going to go back here to our folder selection here. Okay, what we're going to do now is we are going to put this in ARM. The long hold here, the green button. The master's gone into ARM. The slaved have gone into ARMed. I am going to dim the lights so that you can see the integrated LEDs on the rails a little bit better. This script is set up to use 4 rails for every module. We only have 2 rails hooked up right now, so we won't have all of the events that we programmed showing up on the LEDs, but it will show that the script is running. You will see some of the synchronization of the script to the audio when controlled by the timecode track. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to start with song 1, dubstep at timecode right, 0 minutes. You'll see here the timecode will show up and it'll show 0 minutes and it'll start. There is a couple second lead up before the music starts. And on all of these songs, we do have a couple of cues that fire before the music starts or right at the beginning that are an indicator that the track is playing. So we'll start with song 1. You can see the timecode has been received here. You can see the rails firing. Okay, so that song is over. We can go back to our menu here. Now, unlike the first video we did with this hypothetical big game scenario where we had to then load a new script in, the script for the next song is already loaded into the modules. We just have to give it the corresponding timecode. So we can jump now to song 2, and it started here at 5 minutes. You can see the rails firing. Now again with timecode we can pause it and it stopped. We can continue. And pausing and continuing is just the same as pausing and continuing the music. Okay, so again we've finished the second song. And now for the third song. And you'll see here that the screen, when we start the song here and it starts receiving the timecode, it's going to jump to the 10-minute mark on the script. Because when we cut that file out of Audacity, the timecode started at that 10-minute counter. So it jumped to 10 minutes is where it started. See the rails going off? Okay, there you go. There's a demonstration on how you can combine a show with multiple segments fired at different times by the use of timecode tracks to synchronize your songs with your script and have just one script loaded into your modules. Please let me know what you think about this video. Please leave any comments or questions in the description, and please subscribe and check out my other videos. I will leave a link in the description of the other videos mentioned during this video.